Your flight gets delayed, you come home at 2 am, and find your wife with a man half her age. Hey Reddit, I'm David 52, a dentist. I've been married to Linda 50 for over 25 years. We built what I thought was a stable life, 2 grown kids, a nice house in the suburbs, careers we were both proud of. On the outside, we looked like one of those couples who had it figured out. But recently, everything shattered. I was supposed to be in Boston for 3 days for a dental conference. Winter flights are always risky, and sure enough, mine got delayed for 12 hours. It takes 3 hours just to get to the airport from our place, and by the time I heard about the delay, it was already after 10 p.m. My phone was glitching, of course, the one time I needed it, so I didn't call Linda to tell her I was coming back. I figured I'd surprise her, maybe even earn some husband points. By the time I pulled into the driveway, it was 2 a.m. Snow was falling, the house looked warm and inviting, and I remember thinking how good it would feel to crawl into bed with her. Except when I walked up to the front door, I saw the living room lights still on. Strange, because Linda was usually out cold by 11. I pushed the door open quietly, not wanting to scare her. And then I froze. On the couch, my wife of 25 years, my Linda, was kissing a man who wasn't even 30. Her blouse half open, his hand on her thigh, her lipstick smeared across his face. I stood there in the doorway, luggage still in hand, watching the life I thought I had dissolve in a single moment. I can still see it burned into my brain. Linda was sprawled across the couch like she was 20 again, hair messy, blouse undone just enough to tease. The guy, some baby-faced kid, couldn't have been older than 28, had his hand under her blouse, fingers splayed across her stomach, inching lower. She had one leg draped over his, her heel dangling off, the picture of seduction. And then the sound. The wet, hungry kiss. The kind of kiss she hadn't given me in years. She moaned softly into his mouth, a sound that twisted my insides because I knew she'd never made that sound for me. It wasn't some drunken mistake either. It was practiced. Comfortable. The way her hand slid into his hair, the way his other hand gripped her thigh like it belonged there, they'd done this before. Many times. I just stood there. Frozen. My suitcase slipping out of my hand and hitting the floor with a thud. That's when they noticed me. The kid practically leapt off the couch like he'd sat on fire, fumbling for his jacket. Linda, on the other hand, didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stared at me with wide eyes for a split second, then had the audacity to smirk. Like she was caught stealing cookies, not destroying 25 years of marriage. I should have yelled. I should have hit something. But all I could do was stand there, heart pounding, staring at the woman I thought I knew pressed up against some kid young enough to be our son. The kid stammered something like, "I should go," and bolted out the door half-dressed. I didn't stop him. My eyes were locked on Linda. "Who the hell was that?" I asked, my voice shaking. She calmly buttoned up her blouse, smoothed her hair, and, I swear to God, rolled her eyes. "Relax, David. He's just a friend." "A friend?" I shouted. "Friends don't shove their tongues down each other's throats at 2 in the morning." She crossed her arms and gave me this bitchy smirk. "You're overreacting. You always overreact. God, no wonder I need some excitement in my life. You're so predictable." I felt my chest cave in. "Excitement? Linda, that guy is what, 27? 28? He's young enough to be our son's friend." She shrugged, totally unfazed. "So what? At least he makes me feel wanted. You're gone half the time at conferences. And when you're here you're boring. Safe. Comfortable." I wanted more. The venom in her voice cut deeper than any knife. "So all those years we built together, the kids, the house, everything, that's just what? Boring to you?" I asked. She leaned back against the couch and sneered. "Don't act like a victim, David. Maybe if you'd been enough, I wouldn't have needed him." That was it. In one night she managed to take 25 years of marriage and reduce it to a punchline. And in that moment I knew, the woman sitting in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger. That night I didn't sleep. Linda went upstairs like nothing happened, like she hadn't just been caught half undressed with a guy half her age. I stayed on the couch, staring at the imprint of their bodies on the cushions, the faint smell of her perfume mixed with his cologne. I felt hollow. Like someone scooped the life out of me and left a shell behind. The humiliation burned worst of all. 25 years. 2 kids. Every sacrifice I'd made for her, for us. And she threw it away for some guy who probably still used his mom's Netflix account. I couldn't stop replaying it. The way she moaned into his mouth. The way his hands moved on her like he owned her. The smirk on her face when she realized I'd seen it all. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was almost like she enjoyed me catching her. Like she wanted me to see how alive he made her feel. And the words, "Maybe if you'd been enough," those echoed louder than anything. Was I not enough? Had I really turned into some dull, predictable husband who'd let himself fade while she still craved excitement? I started looking in the mirror differently. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every ache in my back felt like proof that she was right. I thought about my son, 23, and realized the guy she was with couldn't have been much older. That cut deeper than I can explain. But beneath all that pain, a spark started to grow. Because maybe I was older. Maybe I was predictable. But I sure as hell wasn't weak. And if Linda thought she could humiliate me, reduce me to some pitiful, broken man, she was about to learn otherwise. I wanted so badly to believe it was a one-time thing. Some drunken lapse in judgment. Something I could process, swallow, maybe even walk away from with my dignity intact. But deep down I knew. That kiss was too comfortable, too practiced. That smirk too familiar. The next day, while Linda was in the shower, I opened her laptop. She'd always been careless with her passwords, thinking I'd never bother. And there it was. Messages. Dozens of them. Weeks, months back. Him. "When's your husband out again? I can't wait to taste you." Her. "He's got a conference next month." Same routine. "God, I hate how boring he is. You make me feel 20 again." Photos too. Selfies of her in lingerie I'd never seen. One with her sprawled across our bed captioned, "Waiting for you." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, over and over. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. It was a routine. Every time I packed my suitcase for a conference, she was making plans to bring him into my house, into my bed, into her body. When she came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her, she looked at me sitting there with her laptop open. She didn't flinch. Didn't panic. She just smirked and said, "Guess the cat's out of the bag, huh?" Like it was a joke. Like 25 years of my life were just something to laugh at. And that was the moment my grief curdled into rage. She didn't just betray me. She enjoyed betraying me. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. Carrying it alone was crushing me. So I called my daughter, Megan 26, and asked her to come over. She showed up that evening with my son, Josh 23, in tow. They knew something was wrong the second they saw my face. I didn't sugarcoat it. I sat them down, opened Linda's laptop, and showed them the messages. The photos. The dates that lined up perfectly with my conferences. Megan's jaw dropped. "Mom? With him? He's barely older than Josh." Josh clenched his fists so hard his knuckles went white. That's disgusting. She's sick. She's not even hiding it." And then came the worst part. Megan whispered, "Dad, I think I've seen his car here before. A couple times. I thought maybe he was helping Mom with something in the yard." My stomach dropped. So not only had Linda been parading this boy toy through my home, but my own kids had been unknowingly walking past the evidence. When Linda came downstairs later, towel in her hair like it was just another night, Megan confronted her. "How could you do this to Dad? To us?" Linda didn't cry. Didn't apologize. She just snapped, Oh, don't be so dramatic. Your father's a good provider, but he's boring. Predictable. I needed something more. I deserved to feel young again. Josh exploded. Young again? Mom, he's closer to my age than yours. Do you realize how messed up that is? Linda just sneered. You wouldn't understand. You're too young. The irony nearly made me laugh, if I hadn't been so broken. That night, Megan hugged me and whispered, "We're with you, Dad. Whatever happens next, we're on your side." For the first time in weeks, I felt less alone. Linda thought she'd only humiliated me. But now the mask was off, and the kids saw her for what she really was. A few days later, I found out who the guy was. And somehow, it made everything 10 times worse. I was at the grocery store when I saw his face on the bulletin board by the entrance, a local college kid advertising lawn care services. My stomach twisted. I knew him. He was Ethan, our neighbor's son. I'd known him since he was a teenager. Hell, I'd even helped him write a recommendation letter for dental school applications last year. And all the while, he was sneaking into my house to screw my wife. When I confronted Linda about it, she didn't even deny it. She just smirked and said, "What? He's legal. Don't make it creepy." Creepy? I snapped. He's barely older than our son. And you brought him into this house? Into our bed? She shrugged, totally unbothered. At least he knows how to make me feel alive. You haven't in years. The humiliation was unbearable. Word spread fast. Small towns have a way of chewing up gossip and spitting it out everywhere. Suddenly, neighbors I'd known for decades were giving me pity looks. One even muttered, "Man, I'm sorry," when I passed by. And Ethan? His parents found out too. His dad stormed over one night, red-faced, yelling that Linda was a predator, that she'd taken advantage of his son. Linda, of course, threw it back. "Oh, please." He wanted it as much as I did. So now, I wasn't just the guy with the cheating wife. I was the guy whose 50-year-old wife was screwing the neighbor's 20-something kid. The kind of scandal you don't just walk away from quietly. And as much as it crushed me, it also fueled something else. Because Linda had turned me into a spectacle. And I decided it was time she became one too. After the truth about Ethan spread, I couldn't step outside without feeling the weight of 100 eyes on me. Every trip to the grocery store, every drive down the street, every wave from a neighbor, it all felt like pity. Like everyone was whispering, "That's the dentist whose wife traded him in for a kid." Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake on the couch because I couldn't stand to be in the same bed she'd defiled. My mind replayed the scene over and over. Linda's moan, Ethan's hands on her, her smirk when she saw me standing there. Sleep became impossible. Food tasted like cardboard. I lost nearly 15 pounds in a month. My brother Matt came by one evening, found me staring at the wall with an untouched beer in my hand. He said, "Dave, you look like a ghost. You gotta stop letting her do this to you." But how do you stop? When your wife tells your kids you're boring, when the neighborhood knows she's screwing a boy young enough to call you mister? One night, I caught myself staring in the mirror, hating what I saw. The wrinkles, the gray hair, the tired eyes. Her words echoed in my head. "You're old. You're predictable. He makes me feel alive." And for a moment, I believed her. That was the lowest point. But sitting there, staring at my reflection, something shifted. Because maybe I was older. Maybe I was predictable. But I wasn't weak. And if Linda thought she could bury me in humiliation, she was about to find out what happens when you push a man too far. The night it changed, I was sitting in the kitchen at 3 a.m., staring at the empty chair across from me. The chair where Linda used to sit, sipping her tea, pretending we had a normal life. I thought about every insult she'd thrown my way. "You're old. You're boring. Maybe if you'd been enough." And then I thought about Ethan, that smirking little bastard, sneaking into my house while I was out working conferences to keep the roof over her head. The shame twisted into something else. Rage. Not the kind of blind anger that makes you throw things, but the cold, focused kind. The kind that simmers. That sharpens you. I realized I had two options: keep letting Linda drag me through the mud until there was nothing left of me, or make her choke on her own poison. So I started collecting screenshots of her messages with Ethan. Copies of the photos she'd sent him, some of them taken in my bed, for God's sake. The receipts from her girls' nights that lined up perfectly with Ethan's work schedule. I even got statements from neighbors who'd seen his car parked outside at 2 a.m. Every piece of evidence was like loading a bullet into a magazine. And I knew exactly where I was going to fire it. Because Linda's world wasn't just me. She still had her family. She still had her friends. She still strutted around pretending she was some respectable woman who deserved more. But soon, they were going to see her for exactly what she was. If Linda taught me anything, it's that cheaters thrive in the dark. They twist stories, hide behind half-truths, and gaslight you until you don't know which way is up. So I knew if I was going to take her down, I couldn't do it in whispers. It had to be loud. Public. Final. The opportunity came when her sister, Carol, announced she was hosting a big family dinner, kind of a mini reunion. Linda was thrilled, already bragging about how she was finally going to see everyone again, and how she wanted to show off what a strong marriage looks like. That was it. The stage I needed. In the weeks leading up to it, I prepped everything. I had the texts and photos backed up on a USB. Printed out copies of the receipts, hotel charges, even screenshots of Ethan's social media posts that lined up with her lies. I had statements from two neighbors who swore they'd seen Ethan's car parked outside when I was out of town. Every detail was airtight. And the best part? Linda had no clue. She thought I was still broken. Still her safe, predictable husband. She didn't even notice when I stopped arguing back. She smirked more than ever, thinking she'd won. But I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the executioner. And when that family dinner came, Linda's carefully crafted world was going to collapse around her in front of the people she thought would always admire her. The night of the dinner, Linda was glowing. She spent hours getting ready, curled her hair, wore the red dress she knew turned heads. As we drove over, she actually said, "Try not to be so stiff tonight, David. I want people to see we're still happy." I almost laughed. Her sister Carol's house was packed. Uncles, aunts, cousins, even Linda's parents. Everyone gathered around the long dining table, passing dishes, trading stories. For a while, I played along. Smiled. Nodded. Waited. When dessert was served, Carol clinked her glass and said, "Let's toast to family." Everyone raised their glasses. Linda squeezed my hand under the table, like she was daring me to play along. That's when I stood. "I think before we toast, there's something everyone should see." I pulled out the USB and handed it to Carol's son, who hooked it up to the big TV for slideshows. The first images popped up, texts between Linda and Ethan. Her calling me boring. Her telling him, "He'll be gone all weekend, can't wait to feel you again." The room went silent. Next, the photos. Linda in lingerie, sprawled across our bed, Ethan's arm around her waist. Her dad muttered, "Dear God." Linda shot up from her chair, face pale. "David, turn it off. This isn't funny." I ignored her. Played the audio of the neighbor confirming Ethan's car had been parked outside while I was at conferences. Then the receipts. By the end, the table was stunned into silence. Linda's mom was crying. Her sister looked like she wanted to vomit. Linda finally screamed, "He's lying! He twisted everything!" I looked at her, calm as stone. "Then why is your lipstick on a 27-year-old neighbor's face at 2 a.m.? The silence was deafening. And in that moment, the woman who thought she could humiliate me in private had been unmasked in front of everyone she held dear. After the last slide faded from the TV, chaos erupted. Her mom was sobbing, asking over and over, "Linda, how could you do this to your family? To David? To the kids?" Her dad slammed his fist on the table so hard the dishes rattled. "You disgrace this family! With a boy half your age?" Linda tried to spin it, her voice sharp, desperate. "Oh, come on! David's exaggerating. Everyone gets bored in marriage. I just wanted to feel young again." "Megan, my daughter," cut her off cold. "Don't you dare justify this. You embarrassed us. You humiliated Dad. You threw away everything for some loser who probably doesn't even shave every day." Josh glared at her from across the table, voice low but venomous. "You're disgusting, Mom. Ethan's closer to my age than yours. Do you even realize how gross this is?" Linda's face twisted, but she had nothing left to say. "And Ethan?" "He vanished. His parents pulled him out of town after word spread, furious at Linda for corrupting their son. The neighborhood treated her like a pariah. Old friends stopped calling. Even her coworkers found out. Gossip has a way of spreading faster than wildfire. Within a week, Linda went from smug, bitchy queen of her world to an outcast. But me? For the first time in months, I walked outside without shame. Neighbors nodded at me, some even clapped me on the back and said, "Good on you for exposing her." Linda thought she could reduce me to nothing. Instead, she reduced herself to rubble. And I was finally standing tall again. After the dinner disaster, there was no turning back. Linda moved into her sister Carol's spare room for a while, but even there she wasn't welcome for long. Carol told me later she couldn't stand the constant lying, the excuses, the way Linda acted like she was the victim. I filed for divorce within the month. My lawyer nearly smiled when I handed over the evidence. "Mark," he said, "this isn't just a case. This is a slam dunk." Linda, of course, came into mediation like she was walking into a battlefield. Hair perfect, crocodile tears ready, voice shaking as she told the judge, "David is abusive. He humiliated me in front of my family. He set me up." My lawyer calmly slid a binder across the table. Screenshots, receipts, photos, witness statements. The works. The judge didn't even hide his disdain. "Mrs. Daniels, this isn't a matter of exaggeration. This is clear, repeated infidelity. You will not play the victim here." Linda's face went red, then pale. She looked at me with pure venom. The ruling came fast. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and a majority of the savings. She walked away with a fraction, and no sympathy from anyone. Outside the courthouse, she hissed at me through clenched teeth. "You'll regret this. No woman will ever want you. You'll die alone, boring and old." I just looked at her and said, "Better alone than with you." For the first time in 25 years, I felt the cord snap. The leash was gone. And I was free. The first few weeks after the divorce, the house felt like a ghost town. Her perfume still lingered in the bedroom, her clothes were gone, but the empty closet screamed reminders. For a while, I caught myself listening for her footsteps at night. Then I remembered, she wasn't coming back. And strangely, that thought started to feel like relief. I threw myself into rebuilding. First, my kids. Megan and Josh came by constantly. We started Sunday dinners, just the three of us. It felt good, messy, real, honest. No masks, no pretending. Then my health. I joined a gym, started running in the mornings. At first, I could barely make it a mile without wheezing, but I kept pushing. Every drop of sweat felt like I was burning out her poison. My coworkers noticed too, one even said, "Dave, you look 10 years younger." I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago because Linda called them silly. Woodworking, photography, even just fishing with my brother Matt on weekends. Turns out, life's a lot more enjoyable when no one's sneering at everything you love. Travel came next. I went to Chicago with Josh for a baseball game. Flew with Megan to California for a hiking trip. Standing on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, I realized I hadn't thought about Linda in days. For the first time in decades, I was living for myself. And it wasn't boring. It wasn't predictable. It was freedom. It's been a year since I walked in at 2 a.m., and found Linda on the couch with Ethan. A year since my life blew up in one night. And looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't get me wrong, it nearly destroyed me at first. The humiliation of being replaced by a kid half my age, the words she spat. You're boring. You're old. Maybe if you'd been enough. For months, I believed her. I thought maybe she was right. But here's what I know now. Cheating doesn't prove you're not enough. It proves they're broken inside. Linda wasn't chasing love, she was chasing validation, and she'd burned down 25 years to get it. Revenge had its place, exposing her at that family dinner, watching her world collapse. That was satisfying. But the real revenge wasn't public. It was private. It was me rebuilding. It was me laughing with my kids again. It was me running farther than I thought I could. It was me standing on a cliff in California, feeling the ocean air and realizing I wasn't carrying her anymore. Linda lost everything she thought made her powerful, her family's respect, her friends, her reputation. And I walked away with something she'll never have, peace. So if you're reading this because you've been cheated on, here's my advice. 1. Believe what you see. Don't let them gaslight you into doubting your own eyes. 2. Gather your proof. Not for them, for you. To free yourself. 3. Expose when it counts. Lies rot in the dark. Drag them into the light. 4. Rebuild for yourself. Pick up the hobbies. Travel. Reconnect. Laugh again. 5. Never forget your worth. Their betrayal isn't your weakness. It's their emptiness. Linda thought she was trading up. But all she did was show me how strong I could be without her. And that's a kind of freedom I'll never give back. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.